What's going on, guys? Today we have a GTX 215. This is a 2014. It's in because the owner mentioned quite a few bit of weird problems that he's having with it. The first is that at first he was able to get up to around 30 miles an hour or so, and then the ski would really just kind of struggle, like it would fall on its face. So he did some testing. He replaced the spark plugs, checked the coil packs, did all that stuff. They all seem fine. He pulled the fuel rail to check the injectors, and it seemed like one was kind of firing oddly, so he replaced that injector, and now it just does not start at all. And then he also mentioned that he kind of felt that there was something wrong with the fuel pump, because when he would put the key in and tap the start button, basically just to wake it up, it made like a clicking sound or like a gentle knock, but more importantly, it would not stop priming. So basically the way these are supposed to work is they build up fuel pressure and then they stop until you start the ski, and then it'll just kind of run. But that first priming is supposed to be temporary. It's not supposed to prime indefinitely. So this is certainly an odd mix of problems. And the first thing I'm going to do is obviously get it connected to buds to see if there's any fault codes or anything in there that can give us an idea of what is going on, and then we'll troubleshoot from there, see what we can find. I'm going to lean towards it being something going on with the fueling, because everything that he mentioned does seem to indicate that is probably where our problem is, whether it's a fuel pump or something going on with the injectors or the wiring for the fuel system. We'll have to see. But let's go ahead, we'll get started. Let's get this thing connected to buds. All right, we have buds open and connected here. Let's go ahead and go over to faults. And no, there is nothing in here, which is kind of a good thing and a bad thing. Bad because it's not giving us a hint as to what the problem is, but good because it means there's at least no immediate electrical problems. All right, so what I'm going to do, just to try and figure out if there is a electrical related issue with the fuel pump or injectors, I'm going to do some activations here. First thing I'm going to do is activate the fuel pump here. I'm going to put the GoPro in just so we can hear if it's actually pumping or not. Let's try that. Yes, so the fuel pump is working. Let's go ahead and check each of the injectors. So I'm going to do injectors 1 through 3. Let's go ahead and just put this here so you can hear those. Alright, so each of the injectors is firing. So this is really odd because everything is showing the way it should. I have the battery on a tender here just because I'm connected to buds. Let's see, let's make sure that we can get full throttle range. Yes, full throttle range. Doesn't seem like anything's binding or anything like that. Intake air pressure is sitting at I'm not sure if this is right or not. Granted, it does read 14.7 psi, which is just ambient. That's just the regular pressure. All the temperature sensors are reading the way they should. Let's see, fuel level, I'm not sure if that's right or not. And I tested the IBR earlier. That is working. So I'm not seeing anything that's sticking out immediately. So I'm going to get this thing connected to the hose, and I'm going to try to start it, and we'll see what happens. Hose is connected. Let's go ahead and start up, see what happens. And there it is. It's starting to really hesitating. Still no faults. Let's do a cylinder shutdown. fine so far. I'm gonna rev it up. Everything's still fine. I've noticed the battery voltage is kind of dipping. It's not staying around where it should be. So I'm gonna shut the ski off and check that. This next part's going to be a little hard to record, but I'm going to start the engine and read what the voltage is across the battery. We're only getting 12.8 volts right now. Alright, it's down to 12.76, so it doesn't really seem like the battery's charging. It could, but it seems to be very weak if it is, because generally when you are running the ski, the battery should be around 13 to 13.5 volts, sometimes even a little bit higher than that. So it could be a voltage rectifier issue. It could be a range of things. I'm going to do a little bit more poking around here and see what I can find. So here's an interesting find. I was just pulling fuses on the charging circuit and the battery. Both are 30 amp fuses, and they're both fine, but look at the socket. I know it's kind of hard to see in here, but the battery fuse is all chewed up. It's actually corroded in there as well. So I'm not sure what that's about. And there's also a separate fuse that's kind of coming out here that I also have no idea what that's for. So I'm going to pull that off in a second, but the first thing I'm going to do is try to clean up whatever happened to this fuse here. That could explain why it's doing what it's doing, or it may not. It's hard to say, but I'm going to use a pick and some contact cleaner in there to clean that up. I know it's kind of hard to see with the camera, but see if I can make a difference there. So let me give that a shot and I will report back. Alright guys, slightly new adjustment, or slightly new information I should say. So I brought out the tester and checked to make sure each one of these fuses was good. Basically just put it on diode mode, and if it got continuity it means it's good. But I noticed that some of these fuses actually have quite a bit of corrosion on the tops. I had to kind of scrape away at them to get a reading, which got me to thinking, you know, maybe it has some corrosion on the bottom. And I noticed that on some of these, it's kind of hard to see on camera, but there is definitely a decent amount of corrosion on these fuses, so you can actually see it in there. So I have a feeling this got salt water or just water in it in general at some point, and just kind of, I have a feeling some of these just weren't getting good continuity. So I'm going to take each one of these fuses out, scrape off the contacts, and then I'm going to use my contact cleaner just to blow off any of the corrosion dust, and then I'm going to put a little bit of dielectric grease onto each one of these as I reinsert them, and we'll see how that does. It's going to be, this is one of those things where it's kind of hard to test because I'm not getting any electrical faults or any codes for that matter, but I'm not able to replicate what he's getting. So I was kind of getting like a low voltage, but I did rev it up off camera because it was kind of hard to measure the voltage and rev at the same time. And it did go up to just over 13 volts. So I know the stator is working. I know the voltage regulator is working. So it has to be something else. And the fact that there's corrosion all over each one of these fuses leads me to believe that it's getting intermittent contact for either the fuel pump or possibly the injectors that's throwing things off. So I'm going to get this cleaned up, and then I'm going to see if there's any difference. We may not see any difference. I may have to bring it down to the marina to run it on the trailer to see if I can replicate things there. But let me do this first and I'll report back. Alright, I just cleaned up each one of the fuse slots, and the fuses, I don't know if I captured that on video or not, but I metal filed the fuse faces down. Could have just replaced them, but the fuses are fine, so I just cleaned them up a bit. Scratched down the contact pads, cleaned with contact cleaner, and then put some dielectric grease in. And I do want to say that I did see an immediate difference in the fuel pump. This time when I basically put the key to accessory mode, I heard the fuel pump very strong. It did the 6 or 7 seconds or so and then stopped. I'm not sure if that's going to make a difference for us or not. Again, it was kind of hard to really replicate what he was experiencing, because he said it was mainly just, at least initially, it was when the ski was on the water under load. It wasn't until after he changed the injector that it just was not starting at all. So let's see if there's any difference at all with just cleaning the fuses. Of course, I'm going to rev it up as well, just to see if it's hitting the limiter or not, see if there's any more fault codes or anything like that. But let's go ahead and get started. No faults yet. It's hitting the RPM that it should. Let's go ahead and rev it up. Everything seems fine, oddly. No faults. Alright, so this is looking like it's going to need a water test, which is perfectly fine. Obviously, I'm not going to be doing it today. It's kind of late, but I think the best thing we need to do is drop this in the water. I can leave it on the trailer, but as long as the jet pump is submerged, so we're replicating a kind of like an engine load scenario, I can keep the software connected. I'll probably do it at night sometime so the ramp isn't busy, but basically I just want to let it idle for quite a bit, get it up to temperature, see if there's any faults or anything, and then I want to get it to various levels of RPM. Most of the fault triggers are around 6,500 RPM or so. So if there is any kind of problem, it will spike up there. But as you can see here, still no fault codes. Everything looks good in history. The throttle's where it's supposed to be. I was taking a look here, and I did see that the air pressure hit basically where it should. So it's kind of hard to say. I'm not seeing any issues right now, and that could be perfectly fine. I'm not exactly sure. So the next part of this video will be heading down to the ramp to see if we can find out what's going on. Guys, down at the marina, I forgot my GoPro, so I'm using my phone. I'm going to launch without the rear covers on. Basically just need to get access to the diagnostic connector, if I can get that out. Here it is. So I'm going to get this connected to my laptop, but I'm going to pull it down the ramp first. Luckily, it's a kind of rainy day, so there's nobody here. So I'm going to pull this down, and then we'll get connected to Buds and let it run. Here we go. We are in the water. I have it just deep enough to submerge the jet pump, but not too deep that it's going to be floating around as we're doing testing here. So Buds is connected. Let's open up the monitors and go ahead and get the engine started. And we'll just kind of sit here. I'm going to let it get up to temperature. We'll let this get up a little bit, and then I'll do a little bit of revving around to see if I can get it to fail on us. Alright, so while we're waiting for the engine and everything to get up to temperature, I'm going to go ahead and do a cylinder shutdown test just to basically see if there's any difference in the feeling, the way the ski's running, and if it does, then we know that the cylinders are all firing correctly. So let's go ahead and do number 1. Yeah, there was definitely a difference there. 2. Yes. And 3. Alright, so all cylinders are firing. This test basically just shuts them down for like a second or two, and if you feel like a stutter vibration, then you know that the cylinder was working until you clicked it. So we're good to go there. The battery voltage, by the way, as you can see, it's kind of doing what it should be doing. It's hovering between like around 13-ish. That's good. We're also increasing on the engine temperature. Idle is pretty much exactly where it's supposed to be. It's around 1700 or so, 1750. Throttle opening is good. Still no faults. Everything's looking good so far, so I'll check back in a few minutes. A lot of debris in the water, unfortunately. That's how it is down here. All right, we're still warming up a bit, but the engine definitely had some time to get up to, you know, a decent temperature here. So I'm gonna go ahead and rev it just a little bit. First, I'm gonna try to get it to around 5,000 RPM, and we'll see if there's anything that triggers. No faults, no problems, nothing that came up. So let that go for a second, and then next I'm going to go ahead and try to get it up to around 6,500 to 7,000. Still no problems, so let's go ahead and we'll get the RPMs up. So it's a little tricky doing this on the trailer just because we only have the straps holding us in place, and if the straps break, then I'm going to go Mach 1 into my car. But let's go ahead and see what we can do here. Alright, we're hitting the limiter just because we are not able to supply enough water into the jet pump at a standstill. But so far so good, no faults. Let this sit a couple minutes and then I'll come back. Alright, I'm going to do one more rev up and we'll see if anything happens. By the way, guys, that is steam, not smoke. It's the water's kind of cold and it's a very humid day, so. All right, we are looking good. I'm not seeing anything that's out of the ordinary. The air pressure did spike, which is good. So that means we are hitting boost. I'm not seeing any more fuel issues, so I have a feeling all we had was a wiring issue. So I'm going to stop the engine and we'll pull this out and we'll check it out. All right, guys, that's it for this one. You saw the test went perfectly fine. So I'm pretty sure that's all we were dealing with here was just a lot of corrosion in the fuse box. And I know that there was at least corrosion problems in the past because you can see I did trace this and it does go to the IBR pinout. So I guess they had some kind of corrosion in here in the past, which was giving the IBR all kinds of problems. So they simply bypassed it and put their own inline fuse in. So we definitely know there was corrosion issues causing problems for the ski in general in the past, and that seems to be the case for what was going on with either the injectors or the fuel pump. So when we got that cleaned up, everything seems fine. We're getting that instant fuel pump sound. There's no stuttering or anything like that. And I did notice, I don't know if I captured it on video or not, but the hesitation even at idle no longer seems to be the case ever since we cleaned the injectors. Now it does seem to coincide with the fact that he said that the frontmost cylinder, I have the seat down now, but the cylinder closest to the front of the ski was having injector problems. He said it wasn't firing at some point, so he replaced it. And that also seems to line up with the fuse that controls that injector. That was one of the most corroded ones. I know I didn't record everything getting cleaned up here, but that one was actually kind of stuck in there. I really had to use pliers to pull that one out. So there was definitely some issues going on there. Battery seems perfectly fine. I checked the wear ring and impeller. That also seems perfectly fine. There's no other issues. The only thing I didn't check was the supercharger slip. But on the water test, I did see that we were building up the correct amount of boost. So I know for a fact that that is pretty much where it should be. So that's it for this one. That was pretty simple. I know electrical issues can be, sometimes they're very, very difficult to troubleshoot because, you have harnesses going all over the place. And if there's even a tiny bit of corrosion halfway through a harness that you would normally not see, even if it's under the engine or something, that can really throw you off because you're trying to chase something that's not very easy to see. It's not really triggering any, could or may not trigger faults. Sometimes these the CAN bus lines are just a digital signal, so one little damaged wire can throw multiple fault codes that could or maybe not be related. So electrical problems are always a fun one to diagnose. Luckily, this one was very, very simple. They're not normally that easy, unless you get water in your fuse box. That's probably what caused this at some point, especially for this generation where you have your covers on the back here, so just, you know, simply breaking in the water, or if you have this loose, this is very easy to get exposure to water. And I'm pretty sure this does ride in salt at some point. The guy lives in a state, but it's in New Jersey, that's surrounded by fresh and salt water, so I'm not sure which one he rides in, but there is some saltwater corrosion, so I imagined at some point this did have salt water. You can even see it on your voltage regulator there and on the negative terminal. So I'll probably get these cleaned up too. So I'm going to clean up the terminals just to be safe. But that's it for this one. If you guys have any questions or similar problems, feel free to let me know and I'll be happy to help.